It's spooky season, which means it's spooky book recs season. I love making videos in which I just list a load of books that I have loved and that fit a certain vibe or theme. So without any further ado, let's get on with it and I can share my enthusiasm. So I went through all my bookshelves of read books here. I do have some more bookshelves of read books, but they're my parents' house, so I couldn't go through them. And I picked out all of the books that give me spooky vibes, for lack of a better term. So I've got witch books, quite a lot of those, turns out. Love witches. I have kind of spooky vibe books, so some which are actually horror, others are just very, very creepy. And then finally I have some kind of spooky fun books for the very end. So I thought I would start with the witches. So the first book that I'm going to recommend is my most recently read witch book, The Ravens, by Cass Morgan and Danielle Page. This was an Illumicrate book. Look at this beautiful edition. I love it so much. And this is basically about a group of sorority girls who are witches. Like, their sorority is founded around them being witches. It's like an ancient thing where all the most powerful witch women in the country become part of this sorority in America. And yeah, every year they have to recruit new girls who have the right amount of power to join the sorority. And so there's parties and there's sort of like, what is it they call the like the trial period? It's not hazing exactly. I don't remember. So yeah, there's like a trial period for new members of the coven. If they don't try, then they're going to have their memories wiped. It's all very dramatic, especially as there is some dark power arising on campus too, which they have to combat. There's a whole big mystery going on, along with all the glamour and parties and fun stuff. I really, really enjoyed this. I'm so looking forward to the sequel coming out early next year, I believe. I did request it on NetGalley, but I didn't get accepted. It was so disappointing because I need to know what will happen in the sequel. I enjoyed this so much. Next up, I have Spellbook of the Lost and Found, and actually also The Accident Season, both by Moira Fowley Doyle. So these are kind of like teenagers messing with magic kind of books. So The Accident Season is about a family where they have a kind of time of year. This is a proof copy, hence the kind of like not very well branded cover. Yeah, at the same time every year they have like the accident season where bad things happen to them. People get hurt, people get injured, death is in the air basically. And in this particular accident season, the season is basically threatening to reveal a whole load of family secrets and bring them to the surface. It is just, yeah, it's very, very creepy and very mysterious, and I really, really enjoyed it. Similarly, I loved Spellbook of the Lost and Found, which follows two groups of teenagers who discover a spellbook, and they use it to cast a spell to basically bring back lost things. And this has interesting and far-reaching effects, I think is the best way to put it. Their whole like town starts finding lost things. Some bad things happen because some things that were lost should have stayed lost. And yeah, it's really, really, really interesting. One of my favourite things about it as well is that it involves runaway teenagers living like a ramshackle abandoned house, which is one of my favourite tropes. I enjoy that bit of it so much. It just adds to the sort of like kind of grimy, realistic atmosphere that makes the magic all that more compelling because it's grounded in a sort of kind of like dark but also, I think down to earth is the best way to put it, reality. Like, you can imagine this like actually happening, and the choices in this book are very like naturalistic. They're very easy to believe as real teenagers, and I love that. Next up, we have Perfectly Preventable Deaths, which summarises itself on this proof copy. Sisters, sacrifice, witchcraft. Yeah. For a second there, I could not read in the camera, even though I trained myself, thanks to many spy books as a kid, to read mirror writing. Anyway, it's by Deirdre Sullivan, and it basically follows these two girls who live in a castle in this small Irish village, and bad things seem to be happening under the surface. Teenage girls have gone missing, basically, for years and years and years. I think it's, yes, for the last 60 years, teenage girls have gone missing under mysterious circumstances, and nobody really properly talks about it. And what happens is one of the girls starts to fall in love, and the other one discovers that she has witchy powers. She does things that she just kind of knows will work, and they do. But at the same time, she doesn't really know how to help her sister, how to help the other girls who've gone missing in the village, and yeah, interesting stuff happens. This just has such a great atmosphere. The kind of the bad guy in this, I could see as being such a real character. Like, I have met dodgy dudes like this, and yeah, that just seemed so real to me. So that made it extra gripping. Just kind of that added level of, again, it's like realism, but really, really tied into the magic. Like the kind of gritty reality of it makes the magic all that more believable. And I just love that feel in the book. Great atmosphere. Less gritty, but still very creepy and foreboding, is The Graces by Laura Eve and its sequel, The Curses. So this is sort of like dark, whimsical, I think is the best way to describe it. The protagonist River moves to a new town and a new school and falls in with the Graces, who are popular, beloved, beautiful witches. But nobody really knows that they are witches. It's sort of something that's kind of whispered about, and there's this one conspiracy theorist website about. And River is obviously very, very curious and wants to know whether they really do have powers. This is very, very interesting and twisty, and as I said, I would describe this as dark whimsical because the Graces live such beautiful, glamorous lives on the surface. They live in a beautiful house and eat beautiful food and have amazing sounding parties. And it's all very lovely in one way, but also there's this sort of like creepy element underneath it and all of these family expectations. And the house itself seems to have a personality, and there's all this other stuff going on that makes it kind of turn dark. And by the time the second book turns around, your expectations have been totally confounded, and it's very interesting. So that was the witch books. Now let's move on to the creepy stuff. First up, my most recent read on this pile was The Devil Makes Free, which was the August 2021 Illumicrate book. This is a kind of dark academia inspired novel set in a boarding school in the US where a boy called Elliot and a girl called Tess accidentally loose a devil on the school and themselves and have to fight for their lives and the lives of the people they love. It's very, very, very creepy and quite gross in places. Next up in this creepy, spooky vibes, I have The Wolf and the Woodsman, which was an Illumicrate book earlier this year, and I really enjoyed it and was... I feel like pleasantly surprised is the wrong term, but I enjoyed the level of gore in this book. So this is about a young woman who is sort of chosen as a sacrifice by her village so they don't lose anybody with magical powers. They pick her because she doesn't have any, and is then taken through a very, very creepy creature-filled forest to the city where she's supposed to be sacrificed. It turns out that one of her captors is a prince, so there's this whole conspiracy. But what got it onto this list was this very creepy scene involving a chicken, the nature of the magic, of some of the magic at least, within the story, and yeah, just other generally creepy, gory stuff that happens. There is some serious gore in this book. So yeah, definitely spooky vibes. Also very, very creepy and in some places gory is the Diviners series by Libba Bray. I love this series. I think it's just so beautifully written. The descriptions are just, the setting in the 1920s, my favourite. But yeah, what really makes this compelling above all else is the epic, very, very creepy overall plot for the series, with this kind of mysterious spirit who's ever gathering power, has very bad intentions for the world, and kind of leads to all of this kind of spooky, creepy stuff with ghosts and kind of physical presences of dead things, and oh, it's just so good, so creepy. One of my favourite series of all time. I haven't I haven't listened or read the I haven't read or listened to the last one in this series. I've been saving it for this month, but I'm going to get it from the library soon and I'm going to listen to it, and I'm so excited to find out what happens in the end. I just adore this series. I love this series so much. I find it incredibly infuriating that there isn't a matching hardback set. I love this particular hardback edition, which I got from the publishers years and years and years ago, but all of the sequels only came out in paperback in the UK, and yeah, so they don't match, and I'm not a fan, and I wish someone would bring out a beautiful matching set because this series so deserves it. Another series recommendation is The Dark Days Club by Alison Goodman. This is a proof copy I got, God, years ago, and I also got a finished copy as a second book, and the third book I read via NetGalley, so I don't have that to wave at you. But I really enjoyed this. So this is basically Regency period historical fiction with demons. So it's about Lady Helen, who discovers that she is like destined to be a demon hunter, and has to decide whether to take up her destiny. Pretty obviously she does, because it's a trilogy and it would all be over in the first book if she decided not to. But she has to learn all of these new skills. She has to act in a way that's not very ladylike. There's even some dressing as a man in the second book. I really enjoyed the second book because it reflects quite a lot on kind of women's place in society and the ways in which that Lady Helen has to act outside the norms, and why dressing as a man is more convenient for her, with everything she has to do. Basically she becomes a kind of member of a secret club that's kind of government sponsored, that exists to basically take down these demons and stop their influence on the country. So yeah, definitely a lighter one, I think. It's not gory, it's just kind of a bit creepy and thrillerish. So yeah, if you want something a bit lighter, this is definitely one for you. Similarly, Cuckoo Song by Frances Hardinge is kind of gently creepy. The protagonist herself is actually kind of creepy, but you root for her, you want her to kind of win out in the end, and for things to be resolved in a nice way. This is about a girl who discovers that she isn't a girl, that she's actually a kind of changeling, and there is a very creepy creature who has bad intentions towards her family, or what she thinks of as her family. And there's this kind of race against time, and it's all very dramatic and just, oh, lovely. This book just sent me head over heels in love with Frances Hardinge's writing. It made me want to read everything she's ever written. I just enjoyed it so much. It's just brilliant. It's creepy, but also you kind of root for the source of all the creepiness, because she's the protagonist, which is just absolutely genius. And yeah, I really recommend it. It's so enjoyable, and yeah, not much else to say other than that. Now we're on to the pure fun part of this video, and so I'm going to start with a cheeky plug for my partner's comic, The Little Deaths of Watson Tower, which is about a group of kids who get turned into little Grim Reapers. I think it's a great read for this time of year because Grim Reapers, and the setting is just fantastic. They're kind of running around in a tower block, and it just works beautifully, and the art is gorgeous. It's black and white, which really brings out the kind of skeleton costumes and actual skeletonness featured in the story. And yeah, I would really recommend it. Obviously I'm biased, but I like to think that even if I wasn't dating the author, I would still love the comic. A good mixture of fun can be found in the anthology Under My Hat, Tales from the Cauldron, which is a witch-themed anthology. Now, I could have put this in the witch section, but this has so many different things. I think it fitted better in the fun section for me because this is just pure joy. There's just so many different variations on witches and magic. My favourite story in this is by Garth Nix, and I'd never read anything by Garth Nix before. There's some other stories in here by authors who I was more familiar with. It's just gorgeous, and I would really recommend it, especially if you're looking for new authors who write this kind of thing, because it's just a perfect introduction to so many of them. And finally, you know what time it is if you've spent like a year or so watching my videos. You know what I'm going to plug now. It's a video in which I'm mentioning creepy, spooky, monstrous things. Oh yeah, it's time for me to rave about Cindy and Biscuit again. I'm aware that many of you watching this will not have heard of this series before, or watched my previous videos in which I talked about this series, but oh my god, I love it so much. It's basically, what if Buffy was a little girl and her sidekick was a dog? She saves the world a lot, and there are just all kinds of fantastical monsters from mythology and myth and legend, and it's even aliens. It's just amazing. I love it so much. I think I should reread it this year because it's a quick read. There are quite a few little books in the series, and yeah, I just love it so much. Cindy and Biscuit for life. So there we go. That was my spooky book recommendations. Thank you very much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Let me know your spooky book recommendations in the comments. I would love to know if you've read any of these or if you have any other suggestions for me. If you would like to read my books but don't know where to start, check out my free e-course, Ignite Your Passion for Reading, Fall in Love with Books, which is linked in the description box below, along with affiliate links to where you can buy all of these books. So thank you again. You'll see me again soon. Bye!